Sick of those stinky, sometimes almost deadly dog farts? Actually, there are several common dog food ingredients that can make dogs produce extra gas in their guts, making them bloated and probably uncomfortable, and leaving you to deal with those sometimes unbearable gas bombs. I'm about to show you 5 foods that can make dogs produce more gas and how you can best avoid those foods and basically help your dog deflate once and for all. And by the way, this all applies to us humans as well, so if you're feeling a bit bloated or gassy yourself, you should pay close attention. Hi, I'm Ingunn, the Norwegian Viking behind Viking Dog Girl, and I'm here every week to share everything on dog nutrition, dog health, and lifestyle. And I give it to you the Viking way, which means no sugarcoating and no BS. I go after the real science and show you the actual evidence. And I do it all so that you can help your dog be as healthy and happy as possible and maybe even extend your dog's life by years. Now, to understand which foods can make our dogs produce more gas, let's take a look at their digestive system. Their digestive system explains a lot about what they're designed to eat. Just take a look at the comparison right here of a ruminant herbivore's digestive system on the left, like for instance a cow, compared with a carnivore's digestive system on the right, such as for instance our dogs. You can see how different they are, right? The thing is, cows are designed to eat grass. They get all the necessary nutrients that way. Dogs, on the other hand, are not designed to eat grass. Their digestive system wouldn't be able to digest most of the food, so they wouldn't therefore be able to get all the nutrients they need that way. Now, what does this have to do with your dog's farts, you might ask? Well, foods that your dog can't digest very well, like for instance grass or other common dog food ingredients that I will share with you shortly, those foods may pass through your dog's stomach and small intestine without being fully digested. And once it reaches the colon, some of it may be fermented by bacteria that live in your dog's colon. And one of the products of this fermentation is gas. So basically, your dog may eat foods that are not very well digested, and those foods may cause your dog to produce gas in the colon due to fermentation by bacteria. Now, which specific foods are we talking about here? Basically, it has to do with carbohydrates, though mostly some specific types of carbs. You see, some carbs are not very digestible, though they are easily fermented once they reach the colon. And these are the carbs that may cause the highest production of gas. This group of carbs are sometimes referred to as FODMAP. Now, there are 5 food groups that include foods that contain a lot of these carbs, and I'll share all 5 with you now. One of them is legumes, like for instance soybeans, beans, peas, chickpeas, and lentils. And some of these are quite common in dog food, like for instance soybean meal. So if your dog's food contains any of these, and especially if they're listed as one of the first 5 ingredients on the dog food label, which means there's likely a lot of it in the dog food, it may be causing extra gas production in your dog's colon. Plus, as one study feeding different soybean products to dogs stated, soybean oligosaccharides and NSP are highly fermentable in the large intestine, producing lactate SCFA and gas including CO2, H2, and CH4. These compounds increase the osmotic pressure and passage rates in the large intestine and generating higher fecal volume and softer fecal texture in addition to flatulence. So it's not just gas that may result from eating, for instance, soybeans. Your dog will likely have larger and softer stools as well. So maybe this is partly to blame for why so many dogs have digestive issues and diarrhea. Now, the second food group is vegetables. Not all vegetables though. Some of the highest in FODMAPs include broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, asparagus, beetroot, garlic, leeks, onions, and etc. Remember, if you are eating any of these foods, they may be causing you to get bloated and gassy as well. Just saying. Now, I said there are 5 food groups, though I'll add a 6th one as well, just for us humans. And some people nowadays actually eat quite a bit of this type of food. By the way, if you enjoy this kind of no BS, give it to you straight kind of videos on dog nutrition, dog health, and lifestyle, then click the subscribe button and turn on notifications to follow my channel. And remember to follow me on Instagram as well, at Viking Ingunn. Now, the third food group that can make both us and our dogs a bit gassy is cereals. especially wheat and rye, and when eaten in large amounts. It's quite common to add wheat products to dog food, though these days grain-free dog foods have become quite common as well. Grain-free dog foods, however, have basically been blamed for causing heart disease in dogs. Now, the lack of grains in dogs' diets won't cause heart disease because grains are not essential for dogs. The reason some dogs get heart disease while eating grain-free dog food could instead have to do with the addition of other ingredients, like for instance legumes. Because in addition to potentially making dogs gassy, legumes can contain anti-nutrients that basically block dogs from digesting and absorbing other nutrients. So legumes might actually be a good idea to avoid in general. And if you want to avoid both wheat and legumes, it's starting to look quite slim because these are very common dog food ingredients. Now, the fourth food group is dairy products. Your dog might not eat a lot of dairy, though maybe you do. Dairy contains the sugar lactose, which can be considered a FODMAP for some people and dogs, because some dogs and humans may lack the enzyme lactase, which helps with the digestion of lactose. According to Small Animal Clinical Nutrition, puppies and kittens normally have small but adequate amounts of intestinal lactase. After weaning age, lactase decreases to about 10% of peak activity in dogs and cats, and continued consumption of milk does not alter the decline in lactase activity. I personally prefer eating dairy that's made of raw milk because it has been minimally processed, leaving more of the natural enzymes and other microorganisms in there, and it contains more of the actual nutrients. I mean, the normal milk and cheese that you can buy at the supermarket has been highly processed and basically stripped of most of the nutrients anyway. Now, before I mention the sixth food group that's relevant for us humans, and actually, I'll throw in an additional tip for you in case you feel a bit bloated, because it's not only about gas production, right? Sometimes we can just feel bloated and it can be a bit uncomfortable, and frankly speaking, it doesn't look very nice either, right? First though, the fifth food group that may cause your dog to pass more gas than necessary is fruits. Some dog foods contain fruit, and a lot of dog owners also give fruit as treats to their dogs, like for instance apples. Actually, fruit has basically been mislabeled as super healthy because in addition to potentially making you and your dog bloated and gassy, fruits are not nutrient dense and may contain a lot of fructose, which is a type of sugar. Of course, if you eat fruit instead of candy, it's likely the better choice, right? But if you're eating it in addition as a snack and you end up eating it quite often, then it may be better to just skip it or at least limit the amount you eat. Okay, so the sixth food group that's only relevant to us humans is sweeteners. Well, I guess sweeteners shouldn't really be called a food group, but I guess you get my point, right? Sweeteners high in FODMAPs include sorbitol, mannitol, xylitol, maltitol, isomalt, and others ending in ol. So you might want to check the ingredient list of some of the sweets or baked goods that you're eating in case you're feeling a bit gassy and bloated. Now, I do want to mention that even if you're not very gassy, if you feel bloated, and I know how that feels, I used to be quite bloated before I changed my own diet. If you feel bloated, it might actually be due to the consumption of sugar and starch. Actually, a high starch diet is very common for both us humans and our dogs these days. Dog food, for instance, may contain as much as 50 or even 60% starch, even though our dogs don't even require starch in their diet. And neither do we humans, by the way. So if you're feeling bloated, it may be a great idea to limit the amount of foods I mentioned in this video, including foods high in starch and sugar. Even limiting these foods for a week or two could have a great impact. Now, it's important to note that none of the foods that I've mentioned today are actually essential to dogs, except for the milk of the dog's mom while the dog is still a puppy, of course. Dogs can eat most of these foods, though they're not essential and they're also not nutrients dense or contain nutrients in the right form. Dogs' digestive systems are not designed to eat much of these foods, so it shouldn't really take up much of a dog's diet. And a lot of these foods are common in dog foods, which may cause your dog to produce more gas in the colon, making your dog fart, and maybe cause some discomfort as well. even though your dog may not be able to tell you about it. So what you can do is to check the packaging of your dog's food and see if any of the foods that I've mentioned today are listed on the ingredient list. And if you're feeding dry dog food to your dog, I just have to mention that it will automatically be a high starch diet because starch is required in the processing. That's just how it is. Kibble is an ultra processed product anyway though, and there are so many issues with it. It's completely unnatural and it may contain lots of different synthetic additives. And on top of that, it's way less digestible than a natural diet can be. The right diet, that is. Remember how the foods that are fermented in the colon are foods that are not fully digested? According to Small Animal Clinical Nutrition, feeding a highly digestible food reduces the residues available for bacterial fermentation in the large intestine, which is where the colon is. And of course, the more digestible the food is, the more of the nutrients in the food your dog can actually digest and absorb and make use of, which is basically the whole point of feeding your dog food in the first place, right? So instead of feeding your dog food that's less digestible, contains food that can make your dog gassy and uncomfortable, and that's unnatural, you may want to try feeding your dog highly digestible, nutritious, all-natural foods that's free from the foods that I've mentioned in this video. If you think your dog deserves to eat that type of food, then you should definitely check out my Viking dog diet system. This system is based on science and it shows you step by step how to feed a nutrient-dense, real food, homemade diet to your dog, including meal examples and how to transition your dog to this new diet. It's a simple yet powerful approach that can have so many health benefits for dogs. It may even extend dogs' lives by years. And it can even take as little as 5 minutes on a day-to-day basis if you follow some simple steps. So if you want to check it out and find out how you can get started with the Viking dog diet, then go to vikingdogdiet.com right now. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and if you did, then give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends and family. Let's get rid of those stinky gas bombs, right? Say hi to your beautiful dog for me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.